All right, Doston. Welcome back to Crypto Brain. There is something interesting happening around Toshi right now, and it has caught the attention of many investors across the crypto market. The reason people are talking about it is because a Binance-related discussion on X has sparked fresh curiosity around the project, leading many traders to ask the same question. Could Toshi be preparing for a much bigger move than most people expect? Now, before we go any further, it is important to understand that crypto markets do not move purely because of a tweet. Markets move because of attention, sentiment, and expectations. A tweet may start the conversation, but what happens afterwards is usually what matters most. And that is exactly why investors have started paying attention to Toshi. Think about it for a moment. Every day, thousands of posts are shared across social media, yet only a small number of them manage to create real discussion. When a project begins appearing more frequently across X, Telegram groups, YouTube videos, and crypto communities, experienced investors start asking why. Why is attention increasing? Why are more people suddenly interested? And most importantly, is this simply short-term excitement, or could it become something bigger? One thing that separates professional traders from average investors is that they do not focus only on price charts. They focus on behavior. They watch where attention is moving. Because in crypto, attention often arrives before momentum. The process is usually very simple. First, people hear about a project. Then they become curious. After that, they start researching. And finally, some of them decide whether the opportunity is worth following. That is why growing attention can sometimes become an important signal. Now let's talk about community strength, because this is another factor many investors look at when evaluating projects. A strong community keeps discussions active, attracts new participants, and helps maintain visibility across the market. Whenever discussions around a project begin increasing, more people become aware of it. More awareness leads to more research, and more research leads to greater exposure. This cycle is one reason why investors monitor social activities so closely. At the moment, supporters of Toshi believe that visibility around the project is increasing. Whether that trend continues remains to be seen, but the growing conversation itself is something many traders are watching carefully. Another important concept is market psychology. Crypto markets are driven heavily by expectations. Investors are constantly searching for opportunities before they become obvious to everyone else. As a result, when a project begins receiving more attention, some traders start wondering whether they are witnessing the early stages of a larger narrative. Of course, there are always different opinions. Some investors believe that increased attention is nothing more than temporary hype. Others argue that attention should never be ignored because many successful projects first gained momentum after attracting widespread discussion. This difference in opinion is exactly what creates volatility in the market. And where there is volatility, traders often see opportunity. However, smart investors understand that excitement alone is never enough. They focus on data, sentiment, community activity, and overall market conditions before making decisions. That is why many people are not watching Toshi because they know what will happen next. They are watching because they do not know. They are watching because uncertainty creates curiosity, and curiosity attracts attention. Right now, the biggest question surrounding Toshi is very straightforward. Is this simply another short-lived trend that will disappear after a few days? Or is it the beginning of a much larger story that the wider market has not fully recognized yet? The truth is that nobody knows with certainty. But what we do know is that discussion around Toshi has increased, investor interest appears to be growing, and more traders are beginning to keep the project on their watch lists. For now, the smartest approach is to stay informed, continue following the data, and avoid making decisions based purely on emotion. Because in crypto, some of the biggest opportunities often begin with a simple conversation before eventually becoming a major market story. And that is exactly why so many investors are paying attention to Toshi right now. The coming weeks will reveal whether this growing attention develops into something larger or slowly fades away. Until then, Toshi remains one of the projects that many traders will be watching very closely. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.